After so long, it has happened. Kirby has made the jump to 3D. And, as expected by a couple of you, I did indeed play the game, and I thought that I'd do a little bit of a review. It won't be a terribly long one, just a couple minutes. This is a non-spoiler review, by the way, as I don't see a reason to really talk about some of the greater in-depth stuff. Before we get into what I thought about the game, I just wanted to say that yes, you are literally just going to be watching the first trailer footage. As again, this is non-spoiler, so I had to I had to do it like this, and I can't capture my own gameplay on my Switch, so I unfortunately had to do it like this. Secondly, a few things I won't be touching on, or won't affect the review, like overall difficulty. Difficulty. While the game is obviously an easy game because it's Kirby, there are some difficult bosses in a sort of challenge mode. And that's all I will say on it. Otherwise, I will not talk about it, and because it honestly does not affect my review whatsoever. I'm looking at the greater whole of the main game and a little bit of the stuff afterwards that I will touch on, but again, not talk about a lot and won't go into greater detail about. And while there is a co-op mode in this game where you can play with a buddy, I have not gotten to try it personally, as I'm a sad little loser, so I haven't gotten to test it out. I have seen it, but it doesn't change enough for me to think that it was necessary for the review. So, because of that, I will be going without it. So, Kirby in the Forgotten Land is just a good game in general. I am a huge platformer fan. So, I want to quick. So, since the footage is muted and I kind of just remind myself of that, let me just touch on it real quick. Every track in this game is an absolute banger. I love all of them. I don't think I have a favorite specifically, and if I did, it would probably either be King Deities, as he is a boss in this game, which I think everyone knew, but so it's not really a spoiler. Like I said, I won't go too in depth into about that stuff. But either King Deities theme or the island like level track. It is a fun game. And it's also a pretty good take on a collectathon as someone who doesn't really like collectathons. Where you have to, basically, you have to save enough waddle days to move on through the stages. And if you're even trying to explore, you will collect more than enough waddle days to move on through the levels. The game is comprised up of 5 worlds, each having about 3 or 4 levels, and then a boss level, which is just the boss, where they give you a tomato thing, heals you all the way, and then you can take on the boss. As a 3D landscape, the 3D world of this game is amazing. I love it. I felt tempted to explore every nook and cranny, explore secrets. There's these little challenge rooms that make it where you have to use a specific ability. Sorry, you hear a dog bark. I'm not going to be that, but where you have to use a specific ability to get through a little bit of a challenge room. And if you complete it, you can unlock some qualities. Again, it's really, really fun. And that's the thing with this game. It's just fun. It's senseless fun and adventure. I was having a blast with the copy abilities, which I'm not going to touch too much on, but there's a good amount of them. There's like 8, I think, and they're all used pretty evenly, in my opinion. So, and like I said, it's just fun. That's the best way to describe this game. It is just a fun game with good music, beautiful visuals, but unfortunately, it is not a perfect game. We gotta talk about the cons real fast. There's not a lot of them. It's a really, really small list, but I still have to talk about them. I have an issue with the tornado ability. Maybe others don't, but I personally do. It is very loose on its controls. It doesn't feel tight enough. Like maybe that was the idea. A tornado is an uncontrollable amount of force, so when you're spinning around like a tornado, you shouldn't be able to control yourself. But it actually led to me getting hurt. Like in the game, I would fall off ledges, or I'd fall on spikes or whatever when it would end, just because I could not physically control Kirby as well. And it kind of just sucked because I knew it wasn't really my fault, and it was more because the controls were just too loose for me to handle. You eventually get used to it, but it's still a bit of an issue. The next con that I gotta talk about, which we will have something else to talk about before I give my score. Like I said, this is gonna be a bit of a short one. It should hopefully be below 10 minutes if I've done everything right. But the next thing I'm going to talk about on the con is mouthful mode. The gimmick with this game is mouthful mode, where Kirby basically partially inhales something, but he kind of just puts his mouth over it. There's a couple. There's the car, or as I call it, Carby, because I think that's a funny joke. He can do it on lockers to pull them out of the walls. He can do it on a light bulb, and he can do it on certain objects to kind of act as like a glider or airplane type thing. Like it's done. They have pretty interesting ideas with what they do with it. It's more of what they don't do with it, which is odd. The mouthful mode isn't used as much as I would personally like. I had a fun time using it when the game wanted me to and let me, but I often forgot about it. Like when I saw it revealed for this game, I thought it was going to be something like Cappy from Mario Odyssey, an ability that's the entire game was structured around this one gimmick, and it will be used to its complete full potential. It's really not, unfortunately. In fact, most times, most of my uses out of it is because I was exploring, or I didn't do a challenge, or like I did a challenge, but I didn't do the best I possibly could, so I would spend minutes like redoing a challenge just to try to get a better score on like doing the challenge as best I could. Other than that, there's not really a lot of cons with this game. Everything else is pretty much amazing. As for post game things, well, before we touch on that, the abilities can actually be upgraded, which I thought was pretty neat. As to upgrade them, you need these little star shards and a lot of money, which you'll get plenty of money out the ass, so it's fine. As for the star jump things, you actually can find hidden levels among the leveled selection thing screen area, and they're like basically little mini challenges that have you use specific power ups and abilities and things like that, and then you complete it, and you'll get a star shard, as I'm just going to call it. If you complete it under the time limit, as as there's a sort of challenge time, you get some money, but not really worth going out of your way to do that, from my knowledge, unless doing them all nets a really good reward. But most rewards are just figures, which, after completing the game, or maybe even before, I think it's after for me, you can actually put them in Kirby's house. So that's really neat. As for side stuff, there's um, there's basically a Coliseum, which have two cups. You unlock the first one about midway through the game, and it's a pretty decent, fun challenge. It's not that hard, but it was fun. You unlock the second one after you finish the aftermath story, as I'll call it. Basically, after you beat the main game, you basically get a thing where you go through 5 to 6 levels, and you gotta try to collect an item. I'm trying to do this without spoiling. You gotta try to collect an item, and like enough of an item to unlock the final level. And it's basically just a long level with a harder version of the boss that's in that level. All the bosses are fun, except for fucking one, and in my boss ranking, we'll get to that. We'll get to that boss. But overall, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is an amazing game. It's so amazing, and I love it. It's a fun game. Like, sometimes I think game developers forget that their games should be fun first and foremost above anything else. But again, it is a fun game. And I've dragged on a little long, so I won't hit my record of my time of under 10 minutes, but that's fine. But we're wrapping up here, so let me just say, Kirby in the Forgotten Land, you made me break my one rule on rating a movie or a game or a show. I always do full scores. But Kirby in the Forgotten Land has made it where I think I should break that rule. Maybe a little more often, but for now, this is going to be an exception. Kirby in the Forgotten Land, while while a great game, is not perfect, and because of those imperfections and minor inconveniences, it has a few bumps in the road, forcing me to drop the score a tiny bit. Instead of a perfect 10 out of 10, as most will probably give this game, and I think it deserves it, but me personally, I'm going to give Kirby in the Forgotten Land a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you soon for that boss ranking on this game. Yes, I'm actually doing that. I'll see you guys then.